You
Yeah.
see that? Yeah, man. That was like, that would have been nice to have a while ago. That was one of the big selling points of that melon thing that Chris
Yeah.
turned us on to.
Yeah. You just press it and then it immediately
It's
begins the live
dude,
roll.
that's like an actual studio. Like, what else do you need? You know, you just need someone behind the scenes, flipping, pushing buttons.
What's up, guys?
What's up, Heinzie?
What's up,
What's up,
Heinzie?
everybody? Ah,
Hey, how you
um,
guys doing? Sorry, I'm
I'm
late.
doing okay. I'm doing okay. I've been waiting for a minute. Shane's probably not going to make it. I think he's stuck in traffic, and I hope everything's okay. Jesse was supposed to be on, but he just texted a minute
Are you
ago.
already
Something
live?
came up.
Yeah.
Okay, just go live. And then we'll see about TJ. How you doing? How's you guys' weekend going?
I'm good, bro. I've been chilling all weekend. Just been getting
With
some
your
work done.
Tesla?
Yeah, I half thought you'd be streaming from the car.
Dude, I love this car so much, bro.
Talk to me about that, because I feel like we've come full circle where, like, everything that we were talking about when we first started this thing, Palantir, Robinhood, Tesla, Bitcoin, it's all come full circle, and we've all kind of converted the others on our individual investments. So now you're a Tesla shareholder and you own a Model Y.
Yeah, I just think like driving this car feels like a video game, dude. Like it's just first of all, the 0 to 60 is I'm being
kind of nice.
I'm being a little too aggressive on it.
Kind of nice.
But
are you looking at that accelerate? There's an acceleration boost you can buy for
$2,000. Yeah.
So we'll see what happens. You get a little call premium. We might just see Amit leaving lines.
It's special, bro. Just driving it is special. And it's not noisy like when you rev up a regular gas car. So I don't know. The technology is amazing. The experience is amazing. Driving it, I walk in and everything's set up. Everything's good to go. Like, just put my phone on the charger and boom, it's special. It's a special experience. I don't have the wall charger yet. I should be getting that in the next week or two. So
how have you been charging it?
There's like one like 2 miles away.
Oh,
so yeah, because in Jersey there's a lot of superchargers.
So, are you letting family drive it?
Dude, they don't want to. They're scared. Like, my dad drove it a little bit. My mom is waiting. My sister doesn't want to touch it because she doesn't understand how to use the brake, and I'm like, it's not that complicated.
Well, they don't have to drive the FSD. They can still drive it just like a regular car.
Yeah, but even the regenerative braking, it's new to them.
Oh,
yeah.
The FSD would be even less. Real quick, let's just say hi to everybody. Hey, thank you, Ken, for being first to hit the like button. Imnap, the title should be overblown clickbait. No, it's not. This is not clickbait. Are we fucking serious? This could be the greatest investment market ever on the backs of $100,000 Bitcoin, which we'll get into. But I do want to finish this conversation about the Tesla. So how was it as a non-EV driver getting used to the one pedal driving now?
It took me 5 hours to get used to it.
5 hours, really? Not even like a week?
Not I would say within the next 2 days of me having the Tesla, I was driving it like I had no issue. Like, the first day turning it was a little, but now it's just like, it's too easy.
It's butter, right? It's butter. It's super comfortable. And now, do you have FSD in it, or you have a trial?
I have a trial. I haven't tried it yet. I have to try it. I just haven't cared too much to try it. But
I was going to ask, because we had that whole fight about, would you put your mother in a FSD? I would never. Cut to Amit live streaming from the back seat with his mom being like,
I'm still scared of it, bro. But it's like, I'm now I see the business use case of it, right? So I do think there's a $1 trillion opportunity there, but I haven't tried it yet.
And Carlos, I was going to piggyback into that. Like, was there a kind of a learning curve when you're like, okay, I'm used to driving for years, and now I'm going to let the FSD do the work? Were you a little bit fearful of that in the beginning?
The first time I let go of the steering wheel and let it drive itself, it was like when I would teach somebody how to drive. You're completely freaking out at every single thing that they do. But as it sort of hits certain milestones, it's really more about the smoothness. The smoother it drives, the more comfortable you feel that it has control of the vehicle. And then at a certain point, you just start to relax and you actually start to feel more like a passenger, even though you're sitting in the driver's seat. And then you get more confidence from there. Then you find use cases for it. Like, there's times where, unfortunately, you're driving and you absolutely either an emergency text or something comes in, or you have to check something, or especially with kids, sometimes there's something that requires your attention. And I feel more and more comfortable letting the vehicle take over for those few instances, and then I feel more comfortable letting it take over in instances where there isn't an emergency or something urgent. And then there's times where I just like look forward to it now. For like the short drives if I'm going to the gym, especially now that it does the end-to-end thing great. Like it can get on the highway, get off the highway, and then it'll find a parking space. It's like the times where you feel like you need to take over are diminishing with every new release. And
Right.
It's actually just kind of fun now. You know, you got to try FSD. You got to try.
Yeah, that's what everyone keeps telling me I have to do. And that's next up basically in my journey.
Yeah, I was talking to Chris about that this weekend. I think he test drove a Model Y and he was super impressed.
He liked it, right?
Yeah, it's one of those things where it sells itself. It's like the first time you held an iPhone, you were like, "Oh, this is the future." It's like nobody needs to convince you anymore. You just need to get to the vehicle and let it sell itself. And then FSD is like on top of that. And they're doing really well, I have to say, with the incentives. Like there was a lot of pushback when they lowered the price from 15 to 8. People were freaking out. I overpaid for this thing. You don't really hear that much anymore, especially now they're giving away subscriptions for free. I think they're even doing a deal where if you like buy a new Tesla before the end of the year, they'll give you like tons of free supercharging, tons of FSD. Like they are pushing this thing, man. This thing is it's real. Like it's legit. It's here. And I don't even know that we're really fully seeing that baked into the stock price yet. Like it's not even really baked in yet, you know. It's starting to.
Yeah, I think FSD is probably not fully baked in, and definitely Optimus is not baked in.
Not at
Now,
all.
it's got a big premium since Trump got elected. So I mean, you know, Tesla's up 40% this year after being down for a lot. So I think there is momentum there. But in terms of the actual impact of FSD and what it would do, yeah, I think we got a long way to go for the street.
Well, I think the first indication of that was, let me see if I can pull it up, was what's his name, Brad, selling out of his Uber stake.
Yeah, that was
Really
interesting.
converting it to Tesla. That's a big deal. And especially when he was challenged on it, the case that he make. I'm gonna see if I can find it. Shane's not here today, so I gotta pull my own links. But
he's defended Uber for years, and so when I saw that he sold, I mean, it makes sense because he's super bullish FSD. But to actually take the money away from Uber, that means like in the next 6 to 12 months, he thinks there's going to be a divergence between those two,
or at least he feels that markets are going to start pricing this thing in.
Yes.
Let me just play a little bit of this, and then we can just maybe talk about it. I think it's this one. You guys can see this?
Yeah.
On Uber. Yeah, you sold it. Listen, you know, let me say at the start, Dara has been an incredible CEO at Uber. He's dramatically increased the free cash flow. He's increased the competitive, position of that company. They're the dominant leader now in global mobility. We love the company, and it's inexpensive. However, leading up to the election, right, we have been taking down our position size, and we've been rotating into Tesla. Why? Because I said before, we had a ChatGPT moment around full self-driving in 2024. I think the year of 2025 is going to be about robotaxi. We were present at the robotaxi day. We were impressed by the robotaxi. And so for Uber, they have to get past this moment, right, where they have a hugely disruptive force coming in the case of Tesla. And now we know that the Trump administration is going to push, right, for a national regulatory change so that will be good for Waymo and good for Tesla. Now, Uber has a solution to this, right? They have Waymos on their platform, but we just want to see it play out. We want to see a few more months of this playing out. So again, it comes back to portfolio management for us. The optics, right? And certainly right after the election, we bought more Tesla and we rotated out of our remaining Uber because we think the optics are going to be really tough for Uber over the course of the next few months. And they're going to be really good for Tesla as we get closer and closer to the launch of robotaxi, which we think will be Q2 of next year.
This feels to me like, the goalposts moved.
Yeah.
Musk's proximity to power, that dynamic has changed. He is becoming quite obvious, a very influential voice in some of the policies that are going to happen, whether they are beneficial to him personally or beneficial to his companies, plural, because I think you could make that argument. That's what this strikes me as, is the goalpost moving in some respects to favor Tesla and in some respects hurt the competitors.
No, I would disagree with that. I think the
regulations that we said of ending the
this is the
tax
best
credits, easing the self-driving regulations. Those are undeniable.
But if they change the regulations, but FSD wasn't killing it the way 12.5 is and the way FSD 13 is going, where you have 1,000x improvement in full self-driving safety in 1 year alone versus the 10% per year we were getting up until 2020 because we've gone from these deterministic models to these imitation learning models. It's about the performance at Tesla that is driving us. Now, sure, I think national regulation makes sense. In a country of interstate commerce, does it make sense that one state's going to allow me to drive my Tesla on full self-driving mode? Then I get to the state intersection between Texas and Oklahoma, and I no longer can use full self-driving. I have to stop the car and change the mode of driving. That doesn't make any sense, right? We drive cars across state borders. So having a national regulatory framework, not just for Tesla, for everybody, for GM, for Waymo, for everybody, that's just the right policy. I don't think it's about favoring Musk or his companies, though I think regulatory clarity is needed in this country. But I look at it, it's the improvements that are going on in Tesla. And I think, 18 months ago, nobody would have said that this was winner take all or winner take most. They would have said everybody's going to have full self-driving capabilities. I will tell you right now, Tesla is running away with their full self-driving capabilities. The only other game in town really is Waymo.
Hold on. That's a big deal. You can hear me?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like he's also riding the momentum too. I mean, it's not, being with Musk and Trump and, how he pretty much ran away with the election. I mean, it's pretty easy to bet on Musk now. So I feel like there's also with him, I think it's probably a momentum move too. I mean,
he seems really passionate. Like the arguments he was making there sounds like what you would hear in a closed door meeting as he's talking to his various advisors and people within his group about why he thinks that this is the right move. Musk's proximity to Trump, it's not like this is a move that's specifically targeted to favor just Tesla. It is good to have that sort of regulatory framework. We've seen that in crypto, right? When you want regulation so that the institutions feel comfortable being able to know, like, what's the boundary box of the sandbox? What are the rules within which we can play? And once you start setting those things, then it just becomes easier for everyone. Although he's correct that it does favor companies like Waymo and Cruise because of the way that their systems operate, like having the high-res digital maps. I don't know that that's necessarily as big of a boost for them, but it's certainly nice to know that you can cross sort of state lines and not get pulled over by a cop if your car's suddenly driving itself. But I think he tried to put a button in that and say, no, this is more about the technology that Tesla is showing, that there's been 1,000x improvement in 6 months, and we can extrapolate that. I think there was another video that I saw of him that they predict that by this point next year, there might be somewhere like one critical intervention every 500 or million miles. And the reason why that's important is because how long have you had your vehicles? Like if you think about your own personal vehicles, how many miles have you personally put on a vehicle before you've gotten rid of it? The most that I've ever done in a single vehicle is something like 300,000, but that was when I was driving for work. Like it was the work truck that I was driving. So even me driving this thing every single day, 300,000 miles. And by then, I would have gotten rid of it sooner. On a personal vehicle,
I think I'm at 220 with my Toyota Corolla. So that's
now imagine if you've got a vehicle that could drive itself all the miles that you're ever going to drive, owning it, and never have a critical intervention. That's big.
No. Like I said, I like Tesla. I have Tesla. I was buying Tesla when everybody was fearful of it. So, and I probably missed this on the video, but when Brad, and I don't know really much about him, but when he sold out of Uber, did he use some of that to buy Tesla? Did I miss that part? Yeah, like most of it, or like just part of it.
I think he said we rotated into Tesla, so you could assume
that it's all of it.
Probably a lot.
Yeah,
that it's that, or it's all of it. So I don't know. There's there's differing schools of thoughts when it comes to this. I've been going back and forth with Neil about this. That I think this is a slow knife that's entering Uber and is being twisted really slowly. I still haven't heard yet a really good, compelling case about how Uber can compete, considering that they have to outsource all of the major components of an autonomous network that Tesla has in-house. The vehicles and the software, namely those two things. They're not paying anyone for it. Matter of fact, they're going to get paid for it. So how does that work? Or unless Uber licenses it from them, but then I just don't see why a customer would say, I'm not going to use the Cybercab network. I'm going to use the Uber network to hail either an autonomous taxi or a Tesla. I'm just not seeing what it is. What are they going to be able to offer customers? So we will.
You think it'll be easier for Musk to monopolize his companies now? I just feel like if he takes away Uber from the competition, isn't that a little?
I mean, talk to GM and Ford. He's by proxy getting rid of them too. And then look, so Amit's still bearish on Tesla, and he might pick up some stock next year. He needs to see how it goes.
I thought Amit did buy some Tesla. Like he bought some.
It's not a position, a real position is when you're like, seriously allocating. I just didn't have the money this year, but I'm going to have to be buying it at 400 next year because it looks like that's where it's going.
It does look like it. Somebody calculated for inflation that the current, the 414 price, the last time it hit the all-time high would be the equivalent of $497 now. So they're predicting that that's one of the reasons why people are saying it's going to 500. It's going to 500. But look, I think Wall Street will give Tesla a healthy premium above and beyond what they're already giving them if you can really demonstrate the bull case for the robotaxi. And to Amit's point, the bot's not priced in. I got one.
The bot's not priced in.
That's pretty cool. Cool. That's so cool.
Yeah, this is cool.
Bot is not priced in.
The bot is not priced in whatsoever. I think somebody was talking about that in the chat. Did someone say something about that?
Michael Saylor just tweeted to Jason from the All In podcast, telling him to invite him on the show.
Dude, that would be sick.
That would be a good one.
That would be sick.
Every time, did you see him on PBD recently? Every time he gets on a podcast and just starts doing what he does.
Even the latest one I saw was the coffee hour.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one. I saw that one. Yeah.
Well, because Jason's making fun of him right here. Jason quote tweeted a video and he says, "We borrow money and we buy Bitcoin, and Bitcoin can only go up, so we're all going to get rich, and you simply don't get it." And he's like laughing. And you can't buy Bitcoin yourself in your own wallet and have control over it and have no expenses. Oh, wait. Yeah. I think people that are calling MicroStrategy a Ponzi, or they're making fun of it, they're not really listening to what Saylor's saying.
Yeah, they're not
about the business.
It's one of those things where you say we are still somewhat early in this next growth phase. We're out of that initial retail phase. Bitcoin is maturing as an asset now, and now it kind of needs to reestablish itself as this new asset class. And Michael Saylor is the one. He's deciding and he's determining and championing what it is going to be now, and so that's why you're getting pushback.
Yeah, and I think of it similar to like option selling, right? Like people can't believe you can make 3% a month, but like when you look into it, it's like no, it's possible. And like people are like, why is he getting interest-free debt at a 55% premium to the coupon? It's like, well, look at who's giving him the debt, why they're giving him the debt, the historical performance on the asset that he's using the debt to then collateralize. And then try to understand where the story goes and what would happen to the stock if the story plays out in the next 10 years. Like people don't want to put all those things together. They just say Ponzi. And like, I get it. But it's like, if you don't, and I was one of those people, but if you don't really look at what Saylor's saying, he's one of the smartest guys in the world, then, you're not really going to understand like he's not raising $10 billion out of nowhere. It's coming for a reason,
Yeah.
He could cool it with the analogies though a little bit, because I mean I have to admit, like for me on my side, like yes, I get it, man, but
his analogies are what make it click in your head.
No, it is.
Is it ever a bad time to buy real estate in Manhattan? You're like, no, it's actually not.
It's like if you're like in the coffee hour podcast, he said something about like if you were like a marathon runner and I'm inflating by taking away your taking away your blood or something like that. So I get
that
it.
One I didn't hear. That one I didn't.
Dude, he is he can put on a masterclass of communication.
Yeah,
and he kind of has to, because when you have this big of a bet, you need to be able to effectively communicate, and he's really good at communicating.
My favorite of his is that like one of those viral videos that went around where he's like, people want to know what the second best asset is. It's Bitcoin. There is no second best. There is no other crypto. And he's like getting angry about it, or the video of him like, have you seen that one? Of him just like breathing. And people are like, what is Bitcoin? And he's like, oh my God. Okay. We got to start from, and he like starts from the beginning. Well, that was at the core of what Mstr is saying is clickbait, the greatest investment market ever, BTC, MSTR, Nvda, Tesla. This was a conversation that Amit and I were having over the weekend. Is it possible, with Bitcoin about to break 100,000, I feel like we're on a verge of Bitcoin. Like Bitcoin is about to break the standard model, I think, of the way that we invest in companies. If MicroStrategies does what it's supposed to do, right, does what he says it's going to do, the typical way that we value companies, forward PE earnings, you know what I mean? Like, doesn't that just go out the window? Because you've got, a company can easily buoy a balance sheet by having Bitcoin on the balance sheet. Like if Apple continues to not have Bitcoin on the balance sheet, does that not start to become a negative if we're seeing what MicroStrategies is enjoying? Especially when he made the case about Warren Buffett, it's basically burning, what was it, $3 billion a month?
Yep.
In investor capital by not having an when he starts making these cases, and then at what point does that become a drawdown on some of like the Mag 7 stocks if they don't follow suit?
Well, here's the thing. I agree. I mean, like, I think that the Mag 7s don't need to have Bitcoin, but over time, if the performance of their cash being in treasury bonds, which we know is going to do worse as the Fed lowers rates, or just literally on the balance sheet doing nothing, you're going to have a lot of shareholders saying, why aren't you diversifying the cash into something else? Now, maybe for those companies are so big, I don't think shareholders are going to get that upset if they don't have Bitcoin. But if Saylor can convince any of them to put on Bitcoin, it's just, do you want to take that risk if you're Zucks or you're Sundar or you're Satya?
What I'm arguing is very quickly, the risk will be not doing it.
I agree with you philosophically, but more practically, if they buy it and it tanks 20%, let's just say that happens, they're going to get a lot of shit from their investors, right? Unless it's a very small amount and it's insignificant.
Well, considering that he's spent more money on Reality Lab. This is just Meta specifically. He spent more money on Reality Labs now than Elon spent to buy Twitter.
Yep, that's true.
So, and markets are fine with that, right? The other part of the equation is this. This is what really. Let me see if I can share this one. This sort of blew my mind this weekend. Let me share my screen. Oh, I guess I just got to share it. No, it's this one. You guys see this?
Oh, yeah, this was crazy.
A random decision. It's on these characteristics.
And you point out America has its first Bitcoin president, supposedly, I guess, and Cynthia Lummis in line to be have an important spot, digital asset chairman of the digital assets subcommittee. Gensler is going to be gone. We now know that.
Also a positive.
So you think that a lot of stars are aligning?
Well, one of the biggest use cases for Bitcoin is to it's the first time in my life, let me say, that I've heard a credible strategy to defease the national debt in the United States. Otherwise you have either crippling service reductions or huge tax.
Actually, not even that one. That's more about like the national debt. This is more about the Bitcoin sidecar to lending. Have you seen that one? This one, I think. See if this one. Yeah.
Price of Bitcoin this morning got very close to 100,000. Join us now, Andrew Holmes, New Market Capital founder and CEO. And today, New Market is announcing Battery Finance. It's a Bitcoin-focused asset management platform that combines cryptocurrency and other assets. I won't say real assets because that sounds funny, doesn't it? It's like something other than Bitcoin, like a real asset. I'm not tangible. Tangible. Let's call it tangible. And the first, you've got to explain this to us. The first time you're combining Bitcoin to actually make maybe loans, which why don't you explain it? Because it takes some of the problem that you normally have with lending, which is inflation, I guess, and it could actually lessen the risk and volatility for fiduciaries running pension plans.
Yeah,
hard to believe Bitcoin could be a solution to pension fund management.
That's what we're thinking. Well, good morning, Joe, Becky, Andrew. I'm so pleased to be here. And I'm really excited to announce today on Squawk Box this loan that we've just completed. We combined a seasoned multifamily asset in Philadelphia, about 50 meters away from the first bank in the United States, the one that Alexander Hamilton started. We combined that asset with around 20 Bitcoin. And we provided a loan to refinance the existing mortgage on the property, to provide the asset sponsor some funding for capital improvements, and with the remainder to buy the 20 Bitcoin.
Okay, we got to go backwards.
Go ahead.
You got to go backwards. We're just going to slow the whole thing down so
Nice.
everybody understands what happened. Okay. So there's a property.
Yeah.
Physical property.
That's right.
Right?
Multifamily, 63 units.
The multifamily property. The sponsor, effectively the owner of that property.
Yep.
Needs a loan.
That's right.
Okay. They come to you.
That's right.
Okay. You say, we'll provide you the loan in the form of
A loan.
a classic loan.
in the
Right.
form
Okay.
of a
And you
loan.
give them cash.
That's right. Term financing.
Term financing. And how long's the loan? Just
10 years.
10-year loan. Okay.
That's right.
It's above market rate or below, or what's
No
the
market rate interest rate.
I'm just trying to slow the whole thing. Okay, now
He does.
let's introduce the Bitcoin piece into it.
That's right.
So no, explain how the Bitcoin piece
And
and
why?
relate. So the loan has been provided.
The use of proceeds is to pay off the existing financing. So
The use of the proceeds
of the loan
of the loan.
is to retire the existing mortgage.
Right. So it's an old mortgage.
Gone.
They're going to pay the old mortgage
It's
off.
been paid off.
Okay.
Now they have a little bit extra money to make some improvements in the property.
Right. So a little bit extra cash. So the amount of money you've lent pays off the old loan.
That's right.
It also has, you have a little bit extra to fix
Improve
stuff
the
up.
property, fix
Okay.
stuff up.
Yep.
And then with the remainder, which is a little bit
So you're
more,
leaving a little extra,
that's
extra
right.
turn.
And that, instead of cash out, it's
Uh-huh.
Bitcoin in. And we use it to purchase some Bitcoin and add it to the collateral package of the loan. So now our loan is supported by both the traditional asset, the 63-unit apartment building,
Right.
and the Bitcoin.
Does that make sense? Did everybody get what he was saying there?
I think it makes sense. It's a whole new world in terms of how people are collateralizing Bitcoin within these like traditional physical assets like real estate. But given what Saylor is doing, I think everyone is thinking, how can we kind of do something similar to that in different ecosystems? And it's creating a movement around this.
Well, that's that's the genius of this thing. So you just say you took out $100 million. What he's saying is you take $100 million, you pay off the existing mortgage on the property. So ideally you would have to refinance it and get it at a different rate. Take another bit of the chunk of money that you've borrowed and you do some improvements on the house, therefore increasing the value of the asset that you have paid off the mortgage on. Then with the money that's left, instead of a cash out, you convert that into Bitcoin and you put that on the balance sheet. And that actually also serves as a part of the collateral in addition to the property itself. I mean, I think it's an absolute genius move. And depending on the term of the loan, the Bitcoin could actually appreciate in value such that it could potentially pay off the loan or severely reduce the payoff amount. He does go on to say that there's a minimum hold period of 4 years. So you've got to hold it for 4 years. I think it's very rare that anyone holding Bitcoin longer than 4 years is not in profit. And so this is one of the reasons why you get, this is actually a genius idea, but it's also like, I mean, this now, to me, when we were talking about this, was one of those things that just blew my mind, because it's now giving people access to Bitcoin or forcing people to have exposure to Bitcoin that wouldn't normally consider it. And so now you just have all of these other little streams that are coming into Bitcoin, and none of this is sell pressure. These are all positive catalysts. And so my thinking is that if this continues, or if more companies follow what Michael Saylor is doing, or if you're seeing more of loans like this where Bitcoin is being added to enhance financing, I mean, where's the bear case for this? Like when do we get this crash? When do we get the pullback? Is this the vertical part of the S curve?
Depends on the rainbow chart, Carlos. Which I hope you pull up, because I think we are undershooting 100,000. To be honest with you.
What do you mean undershooting?
Or we're kind of being super conservative, thinking that the bull run, yeah. So it doesn't look like it's just going to be 100, but
I agree, especially since, I mean, basically it's hit this sell wall at $100,000. It's been bouncing around between, what is it, 96 and 100 for the better part of a week now. It will eventually get through. And then you ask yourself, the longer it takes to break through, basically everyone that wanted to sell at these levels will be gone. So, the person that's holding on to sell it at 100 that might capitulate at 99.5, they're gone. So some of the sellers that are over 100 now, if they're gone.
Well, I think I mentioned this to you, Carlos. I don't think people are selling at all. Right. I don't think the amount of movement of how many people have Bitcoin have not sold for the past few years, man. Like a lot of people who are investing in it, they're hodling this shit, man.
Yeah, but retail is becoming a smaller and smaller part of this. This is really an institution game now. Like, do you think retail investors move Nvidia stock? No.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything stopping the momentum right now for Bitcoin. Like, I really don't.
Except the sell wall at 100. Except the sell wall at 100,000.
Yeah, and once that's broken, like, I think it's off to the races. But the question is, do people feel 100 is too much, and then we get a drawdown just off everyone leaving? And with all the catalysts surrounding it, it is hard to believe that 100 is anything more than just this thing that you have to get over.
So hold it.
Well, I think we're underestimating how much the government will be printing, right? I mean, I think we're still. I mean, like I said before, this debt that we have, I think it's insolvent. We're not going to be able to solve this stuff. We can probably slow it down with this, with DOGE, right? But
you can get a handle on it if you don't attack the spending. You're not going to get ahead of it. It's like, think about you as a person. If you continue to spend more than you earn every month, you're in a spiral, and eventually you're going to go bankrupt.
Yeah.
Well, we can't even pay off the interest on the debt that we have. So that's why I'm, in terms of us even taking care of the debt, I think we can slow it down, but we can't really do much to pretty much get a handle on it. So, and I think that's why I'm mainly bullish on Bitcoin, right? Eliminating third-party risk, decentralized,
Look, I think the government dealing with its debt is one thing. I don't think that that's really playing into the Bitcoin story. I think it's a use case for it. People could see it being a use case, but I don't think that that's driving policy. When they talk about a strategic Bitcoin reserve, I don't think it's to get ahead of the debt per se. I think it's just for positioning, realizing that there's a runaway effect here, and eventually everyone's going to pile in, and you want to be holding them, especially now since this is the most number of coins that are going to be mined from this point going forward. There's only going to be less and less supply as we go further and further. Although
do you think that once 2025 starts, Trump and his team's going to really invest in Bitcoin like he said he will?
Yeah, I don't see why not.
I hope so.
All of the people in the key financial cabinet positions are bullish on crypto, and believe that it's part of a United States strategic financial policy going forward. So again, like, the regulation seems to be getting out of the way.
My question is just, does he have to do an executive order or Congress, or like, how do they actually get it done?
It's going to have to go through Congress because they control the money. You've got to make the case for why we need a strategic Bitcoin reserve, and then you've got to allocate the money.
So do you think we have 2/3 of the votes to get that done?
I think so. I think considering the fact that Elon and Vivek have given themselves like a 2-year timeline, and that's going to be during the midterm elections, I think it's just a narrative. I think they need to sell it to the Congress people and say, look, we've got essentially 2 years. Do you want to be on your seat's coming up in 2 years? Do you want to be on the wrong side of this? Do you want to be, we've got a mandate from the American people. Part of it was to create a strategic Bitcoin reserve and have that, and then the energy that's behind mining it, right? Do you want to be on the other side of that when the midterms comes up? And Elon's even threatened, if you get in the way of the administration, we're going to primary you. This is what the Democrats have done for several years to get the Democrats in line. And I think Elon, he's got the money, and you see that he has got the will, and you can only imagine that after 2 years, he's going to have even more influence. I don't know whether it's the carrot or the stick. I think they're going to fall in line.
And think about the information that he has access to now. So that's pretty crazy, like, not to be bullish on Elon just in general.
Yeah. And he's also in early enough where he is influencing the cabinet positions now. So even if he has much less day-to-day influence going forward, he has definitely helped get certain people in. Although the Surgeon General one was a question. Let's see.
Elon's in a sweet spot, bro. He is
moving, man. But it's not like he wanted it. It's not like he actually got up in the morning and said, "This is what I want to. This is what I'm going to be doing." He's sort of fallen into it, which is the way that you want something like this to go, because it's not like he was in some sort of a quest for power. He's busy enough as it is. Trump pump is helping the stock. Let me see. What do we got here? I have a question. When the fuck is Ethereum going to run? It's about time it does. Lagging crazy. Yeah, this is true.
Ethereum's been starting to a little bit.
I know. I tweeted something because I feel like it's like people are like, I can't get through the 100,000, so they're trying to get in through the back door, like through Ethereum, and it hit 3,500 this week.
Yeah, altcoins were running this past few days that I had to sell some of the, this is my degenerate side where I was buying some stupid, no, not Ethereum or Bitcoin, but like some like stuff that I've been accumulating, like what is it, like Clover, like all this random stuff.
That guy.
And it's just
you're a gambler.
Yeah. I mean, but I could afford it, right? But there is like a metric where we're still in Bitcoin season and we're not even close to altcoin season yet. So That's when things get crazy. So even the meme coins are running right now.
Yeah, and if you're in those guys, just know that you can lose your money tomorrow. If you're in
PayPay coin,
take the fucking profit.
I bought $10 of PayPay coin, whatever.
Oh, okay, fine. Use the $10. It's like a cup of coffee. Gap in BTC and Ethereum market brought in up too much from the norm. I believe BTC will be at these levels for some, so ETH will catch up. I haven't checked the BTC ETH charts, yeah, but I'm assuming now that Bitcoin is probably as strong against Ethereum as it's been in a while. It's 60-something% of the market. I mean, it doesn't stay. It could stay here for another 5 or 6 weeks, but I do think we need to pass that psychological milestone of 100,000. There's still a lot of sellers waiting at 100,000. So once the buyers can get us through it, I do think that'll trigger yet another sale.
Well, Carlos, are you still DCing Bitcoin?
No.
Really?
No.
I'm still buying a little bit.
I was doing $50 a day forever. And then once we got up over 70 or 80,000, I think I lowered it to like 20 and I started picking up some retail. I was doing like just daily buys.
Yeah.
But now, no. I mean,
so what is your exit plan, Carlos? How are you thinking of this right now?
This is what we were talking about the other day. Considering everything that's been happening and the excitement and even these things like these new products where Bitcoin is becoming a part of lending, or MicroStrategy's, Michael Saylor actively telling people to short MSTR. I'm saying to myself, I think I need to hold on to more Bitcoin than I thought I would have needed to after this cycle. I don't think we're going to get the 80% drawdown. I'm just really not convinced that we're going to get the 80% drawdown. In my opinion, this will be the last halving event that has any significant impact on Bitcoin's price. And I've said it before, but I don't think we'll get some sort of a drawdown. But if you really want to participate in the subsequent halvings and or any of the subsequent bull runs, it's only going to be possible with Bitcoin profit at this point. So my thinking is I'm definitely selling something at 100, and I've even been considering just pulling the trigger now.
You're the one has the 100 wall. You're part of the reason.
I'm part of the. But I'm not. I'm the other way. I'm not selling. I'm not the one selling out into this right now. I'm not preventing it from getting over 100. I'm like, let it go. But there comes a point. I mean, look, we're at 97,800 right now. Yeah, I was considering even just take some off the top because the Coinbase fee is a lot less than I thought. So it's only about 1,600. Yeah. All right. If it's the 1,600 price difference, that's fine. But then after 100, it's what happens. I do believe, just if you look at charting, that it's kind of a free run. After 100, I don't think we see any sort of, there's no psychological level there. There it's just complete price discovery and what are people willing to pay. And I do think we could run all the way to 125, possibly the 140s before any significant pullback. And then I think, depending on how long it takes to get there, if it's a meaningful pullback, I think if it's if it's at all a meaningful pullback, I do think it could trigger like a short flash crash, a 20%, 30% correction, in which case I think we'll resume the bull run. But that's where I think you see people start to convert those profits into altcoins, and that will signify the start of alt season. But I don't think we see the start of alt season until next year.
Well, I think that's what I'm going to do is I'm going to sell a little bit part of Bitcoin, but I'm not going to be fully out of it because I believe that we still have more to run based on the rainbow chart, on that chart. Technically, when the last time I checked it, we're still in accumulation phase. That's what it says based on the metrics. We're still in accumulate, and it's crazy because we're only like 4,000 or 2,000 from the 100K that everybody was predicting. So
what do you mean? We're only what?
We're only in the accumulation phase, technically on the rainbow chart.
Yeah, we're in the.
So we're not even in that orange red line.
Right. So, right. And if you look at the average of the last ROIs from the bottom in the halving year, we're like right in line with the average. Yeah. So the charts would indicate that we still have almost a year left in the bull run, and we can expect, say, at least another, maybe a double from here, 180s into the 200 something. But that's the thing, you never know, because we've never had this much institutional participation at this level. So a lot of this is speculation based on what we've seen when it was predominantly retail. So it really is anyone's guess. But you do know that to the institutions, they only care about holding it on their balance sheet. I don't think they really give a shit about the price as much as a retail person would. Like, do you think Kathy Woods cares if it's 100 or 110,000, 120,000? No, she just They just buy the allocation that they want.
Yeah. I think the institutional exposure makes this time a lot more complicated for there to be a really, really big drawdown. Unless like everyone just like in 2021 when it fell, inflation was the issue and we knew we were getting into raising rates. I don't see that crazy macro event.
What
in 2025?
What, a rate hike?
Well, when Bitcoin was 69,000 November 2021, we knew that we had to raise rates. And like that's what took it all the way back down to 15. We're cutting rates all of 2025. So why would Bitcoin have to go back down to 60K? Right? Like what would take it there?
Well, I would argue, what do rates even matter if you can get 0% interest rates right now?
Well, that's also true.
You know what I mean? If MicroStrategy is getting 0% interest rates, that is, do you have any idea how bullish that is, people? Do you have any idea how bullish that is, that these guys are getting money at 0%? They don't have to pay back anything. That's how expected the return on that investment is, above and beyond what they don't even need a guarantee with interest.
And you have some of the biggest insurers in the world giving them the liquidity. So it's like, are these guys all stupid? Are they all part of it? Like,
exactly.
There's no way that many people are giving this much money up into something that's stupid. And it's like, yes, that people have lost big money before, but this is institutional money coming from all different directions.
Oh, Jesse.
Yeah, it's funny. Last night I was on X last night and actually saw this post go live. And then a minute later, Jesse retweeted it. Here we go again. Is this? Yeah, it's this one. Hold on. Where is that tweet?
Yeah, the Saylor tracker website is really good.
Right, so you can see. Hold on, I got all my windows here.
He's about to buy another 30,000. He probably already
bought. We need more greens out on
Saylor, dude.
Say what?
Saylor just keeps buying, dude, at these levels, man.
He doesn't keep a. I mean, this is a guy that believes it's going to be $13 million. I mean, so if you believe it's going to be 13 million, these prices mean nothing to him. Yeah. And he was buying. It's not like he wasn't buying all the way, all the way down here. He was buying all the way down there too. So if he's buying all the way down there and he's comfortable, this is absolutely nothing to him, and he's getting the money essentially for free.
Yeah, it is. It's pretty remarkable, bro. Like, it's pretty freaking remarkable.
Well, and I think it's I know we talk about price ceilings and all that stuff about Bitcoin, but I mean, I think it really just depends on, why you're buying Bitcoin. When I watch people like Michael Saylor and, Jeff Booth, like this is more of a cultural shift for them. Like, they don't really do it for, like, they rarely mention money or price. They just mention the fact that we have a big problem in, money printing, devaluing hardworking people's energy, retirement age going up because of the inflation. And, people like these guys who are trying to solve problems, this is a big problem. So I guess depending on what your outlook or how you feel about Bitcoin, I mean, for me, it's that too, that we need to be able to make sure people are able to save their wealth, as they work. So I think that, to me, that's my attachment to Bitcoin.
Well, that's a perfect segue into this next bit that I wanted to talk about. Preserve their wealth. So Michael Saylor on a recent interview was talking about billionaires, right? Billionaires predominantly want to preserve their capital. So what do? They buy up all of the luxury properties on all of the waterfronts, and a lot of times they sit empty. They sit unoccupied because it's really just there to store the value. And who can they sell that to? They can only sell that to other people within their tax bracket. So he talks about real estate right now being one of the better storers of value. But he makes a point about the risk that comes with owning that property, the upkeep, the property taxes, the insurance, the maintenance that you need to do. What happens when those guys start to see Bitcoin as a better, safer, more reliable investment with less risk? If that becomes the case, this is what Amit and I were talking about. If you were thinking about buying a house, and then you said, you know what? When I really think about deploying all of that capital and putting it into a home for the sake of not only a place to live, but for the capital appreciation at some point in the future, and maybe the rental income, does that make sense? Especially if you believe that you could make more money on that money in the short and the long term.
Yeah.
Does it make sense for you? As how old are you now? 28?
27.
You're 27. All right. So you're in that spot where you start thinking about buying a home. This would be a great time for you to buy a home, because on a typical 30-year mortgage, you would be done before your theoretical retirement age, right? Anyone that doesn't buy a home by 30 is saying, I'm going to be expecting to pay a mortgage beyond my retirement age. So if you pick up one up now, you're 3 years ahead of the game. You're 62 years old with a fully paid off house. Why is that not enticing to you now?
Yeah, I think it's because what we were talking about, it's just like the amount of money that is required for that down payment at minimum is at least 125, round around that range for 20% down. I know you can do 10 or 5% down.
You can do an FHA 3%, which I did. It was like 30 grand. So it's not a crazy amount of money.
Yeah. So then it's just a question of do you want to take that money out of the markets if you know how to wheel it, you know how to use it with different asset classes? Like there's just better returns you can get monthly versus the maybe 3 to 4% you get of appreciation on the property. B, interest rates, until they go to 4.5%, it's not that exciting to get a 30-year mortgage.
You could always refinance.
You could always refinance. Yeah, it's just one of those things, right, where you have to set up initially for it, and then the taxes and the property management is another big thing. Like my dad, he has his own rental property. They just raised the taxes by $8 grand. And he's like legit thinking of just selling the property now, because he's just like, why are we paying another $8 grand? It's like, and he can't do anything. He has to pay $8 grand.
You can appeal it, but most likely you're going to lose.
Yeah, it's like you can't go up against the whole city that you've been living in for 20 years, right? They're not going to. You're not going to get out of that. So it's just, he was literally saying he's going to talk to his accountant, thinking of just selling the house because it's paid off. It would be, but he would have to pay a lot of taxes when he sells it. But he's just getting annoyed right now, and so all of those things considered at this stage of my life. I don't know.
Doug is just
raise the rent, dude.
Doug is just like pass that on to the
but then what happens when the tenants just don't pay more?
Yeah,
and then you go to court that like he's been through before, and like that's like it's not fun owning and managing a property unless you are so comfortable in life where you can delegate it to someone else and you sit back and just collect the returns. If you're doing it as a business, I'd rather take all that time I'm going out to try to fix the fucking toilet and be researching stocks.
Yeah.
Right? Because I feel like there's just a better return you can get on that.
Well, that's the argument that's being made here. Like Bitcoin represents a way of capturing some, if not more, than the capital appreciation that you would normally get in a property with none of those liabilities or risk. And because now it's not fighting for validity anymore. Now that it's considered a real asset class and you're starting to see big money coming in. Look, this loan that the guy did where he had that Bitcoin sidecar was for a property. It was to refinance a 63-unit property. Yeah. So Bitcoin is starting to make inroads into that market now. And so you ask yourself, if you're young now, someone say of Amit's age, and you don't want to do you take the 30 or 40 or even 50,000 and put it into a property and then sign up for property taxes?
And maintenance and managing it, and then your freedom is stuck because you can't just leave the property.
That's another thing too. You could go to any country in the world and they'll accept your Bitcoin.
Just think about what Amit just said and just multiply that by millions of millennials. And
right. Is that the conversation that happens?
And check this out. Amit is actually, I mean, just, I don't know Amit's, portfolio, but I assume
he's incredibly wealthy.
He's better than
incredibly wealthy.
Yeah, he's better than
he just bought a Tesla. He's fucking wealthy.
So, but just think about he's worrying about that. To be honest with you guys, when I was hearing Amit say, "Oh yeah, 20%, 100,000, dude, that would be a dream here in California."
Yeah, there's
no way. I mean, that would be a dream because 20% on the homes here, not 100,000. I'll tell you that right now. So. I share the sentiment where it's like, would I rather just invest that in somewhere where I don't have to deal with maintenance or fixing up the house, shit like that, and just
did a poll, people: Bitcoin or property?
Bitcoin, and the sacrifice for like people may be saying, oh, look at these guys, they just don't feel like doing work, right? When it comes to property, because it's a lot of physical work. Well, I would say the counter to that is the intellectual work it takes to figure out that Rocket Lab at $14 on December 20th in a put makes sense to execute on a trade. Like that takes a lot of work. Now it might seem like you're just playing around with numbers and guessing, but then you'll get your ass handed to you if that's actually what you're doing. But to know how to sell a Tesla 310 put expiring in 1 month, that takes work. To know what the hell you're doing in the strategy.
It takes absolute huge cojones, big, giant, fat fucking
Like
balls.
TJ.
Like TJ.
I lost 2 million today, but you know, we can roll it.
He's like, we're just gonna roll this down. What do you guys think? Should I hit the button? You're like, dude, hit the button.
Yeah, it's just one of those things, bro, where it's like all the work that it takes to learn about how to do options and wheeling and Bitcoin and crypto and all this stuff. It's a different type of work. And there's other people that don't want to do that type of work. They want to actually be in the weeds of like fixing the stuff in the house. And that's commendable. It's just, I think for a lot of millennials, there's other opportunities out there.
Well, Saylor's whole point is that Bitcoin is digital property anyway. So if you're going to manage a property, why manage a physical property? His whole thing was, before we go to outer space, we're going to go to cyberspace, right? So if you want to own property, the analog way to do it up to this point was to buy a physical plot of land and manage a physical property. And so he's saying, why not just do that in the digital realm and space and get all of the benefits of that? I want to pose a question, because I know that there's a lot of people in the chat or that watch that do real estate. Has owning Bitcoin changed your idea or concept of owning and managing properties as like the cornerstone of building American wealth, right? You don't know anybody that's super wealthy that doesn't own some sort of property, unless I don't know anybody that doesn't see real estate.
Bitcoin's up right now. I guess in 2022, when Bitcoin was down 60%, people would be picking property over Bitcoin. So I guess it is a little biased now, but
okay, but look at that. If you bought Bitcoin in 2022 and it was $40,000 and you put 100, let's say you put $1 million.
It was 15 grand.
All right. So that was the low. That was the low. But if you put $1 million into a property and at that same time, or you put $1 million into Bitcoin, you're sitting at $6 million right now. There's no real estate that is going to appreciate at that level. And the only Bitcoin's biggest risks were regulatory. That's really what it was. Regulatory and rates. And those two don't seem to be an issue now. And that's within 2 years. So the question for the chat, the question is this, do you consider Bitcoin a competitor to traditional real estate? Or does what Bitcoin is doing now, the adaptation that's happening, change your idea of what you want to do in the future with respect to investing in property?
And even now with IBIT, dude, you could sell calls and puts on IBIT. Like, there's a lot of ways you can use Bitcoin to generate a return.
Oh yeah, that's a good point too. They just open up options for it too. It's like every week it seems like we're getting yet another positive catalysts for Bitcoin, and none of the negatives. What are you saying? I still rent, but not because I need to, because I'm a single lady who doesn't want the responsibility of the house, and I don't want the extra work or hassle. So the money that you would, if you were going to buy a house, would you put that in Bitcoin, or would you get a house? This is the question.
I think for some, Carlos, I think it'll depend on location. Like if I was living outside of California and making the money that I was making just, from regular my work, right? I'd probably buy a home just because, I need to live somewhere. I'm not saying that it would be a better investment. One thing that you said a while ago where I don't know if you were quoting or you were just verbalizing what Michael Saylor said about beachfront properties, but I have thought about that, where the middle class is shrinking. There's less and less people, millennials, not being able to afford a home. So I feel like at some point real estate is going to be a market for only rich people, right? It's just going to be.
It's the opposite. His point was it's the opposite. If the billionaire class stops seeing real estate as the main store of value and they stop buying up these properties on the waterfront, the prices come down.
Yeah.
Because the only people that are going to be buying this are not the 1% anymore. That was his point. You've got millennial families, wife, husband, 2 kids, and they can't get that property, but they would have access to it if these other buyers go away.
Well, Carlos, I think with some people who haven't invested in Bitcoin, I think they still want to be able to, like, when they think of property, I think they're still in the mindset of I have to be able to hold it, right? Whether it's the walls of your house or a piece of gold.
Okay.
That's why there's a lot of people that are still not invested in Bitcoin, right? So it's still going to be a slow shift, right? I mean, I think real estate's still going to keep going up, regardless of
real estate will still keep going up. The question is, will it outpace what we think Bitcoin's going to do? And the other part of this is, the next generation that's coming up, right? The next generation of the billionaire class that would be buying these homes, if they now see Bitcoin as an asset class, as they're maturing in their investment career, that has to have an impact. Like right now, we're seeing Bitcoin sort of mature, but what happens 10 years later when that conversation is over and Bitcoin is a mature asset? Say it's sitting at $300,000 or $400,000. Like a few years ago, Bitcoin was the price of a new car. Now Bitcoin is becoming the price of a new house.
Yeah.
So what happens if Bitcoin does settle at a $200,000, let's say $300,000? Does that not become literally the same thing as buying a house?
I
You look and
mean,
you say, yeah, it's $300,000 Bitcoin. I'm going to buy one of those. What do you want to leave for your kids in the future? You know?
No, Carlos, I agree. It's just I can't take out a loan using Bitcoin right now. You know,
Yes, you
we're not there yet.
Yes, you can.
No, with a house, like I can't pay with Bitcoin. I'd still have to trade that Bitcoin with cash, and then
What? But you're saying to just use the Bitcoin as collateral?
not to like buy the
no,
house.
just to buy. Like I still need to be able to like sell my stocks or sell Bitcoin to say, hey, here's the 20% $400,000 down payment.
Yeah, but that's because the way that the way that you buy now with fiat, you need a broker and escrow to protect the investment, right? At some point, when you can buy directly with Bitcoin, you actually don't need brokers.
Yeah, no, but I agree with you, Carl, but we're still far from that because it's still not fully adopted. That's why.
Mm-hmm.
But this is a Rugamix had a good comment at 255. He says, management of real estate is no joke, guys. I used to do that in, I think, Florida, and I'm living in Massachusetts. I had to fly every quarter.
Where is it? Let me see. Management of real estate is no joke. I used to fly. Exactly.
It's not fun, bro, having to manage
This is what I'm saying. Somebody
dude, the property taxes is the one that worries me.
Well, in Florida, you're fucked because there's no state taxes. They could flip it on you in a minute. They could flip it on you. But that's the idea. If you currently own real estate and you're sitting on $1 million portfolio of real estate, when you start to calculate what it costs you in time and money, these little fees here, the maintenance there, the property taxes there are eating into what you expect it to appreciate for later. When you factor all of that in, and then you say, but Bitcoin has historically, say, a 200% return year over year, and you know that all these institutions are buying into it. It's like if you knew that every institution was buying land in Florida right now, that would be the hottest real estate market. Saylor's point is Bitcoin is that real estate, is this new, the new gold rush, the new green pasture, and everyone's buying into it. Whether you're buying into it through an ETF, on a personal level, it's getting baked into some of these loans right now. Governments are buying it, like sovereign nations. Everyone's flocking to this thing. Do you want to be left behind holding a legacy asset like a physical building in a physical location that has all of these other forces that can go against it, including like Mother Nature, right? You can get a landslide, you can get wiped out by a tsunami or a hurricane or something. Do you want to have that risk? That's a question. So Rugamix that's a legitimate question.
Dang, we got some watchers here from like rich ass areas like Walnut Creek and Palo Alto. That's crazy.
Walnut Creek is beautiful.
Yeah, Walnut Creek is nice.
Where are you I'm a little bit behind on the chat.
It was Walnut Creek was so affordable, like probably 10 years ago.
Takes the house.
It's no more.
Yeah, this is a good point. As soon as you can borrow against your Bitcoin for a simple interest loan rather than a mortgage, that will be better. Yes.
But see, that's only going to happen once banks start not thinking the volatility of it, because they'll give you a loan against your Apple stock right now because the banks love Apple. They don't love Bitcoin yet.
I was looking into homes in 2021-ish when
but Carlos, if you went to Bank of America and you showed them your Coinbase account, you said, guys, give me a XYZ loan against it. I think they would look at you, they would think about it, they would be like, no, it's too risky.
They would give me a loan against it, or they would accept it as collateral, but I don't think I would get the same value. Loan to value, right? I don't think I'm going to get the same. Maybe I would get 30% of the value of it because they want to assume that it could be incredibly volatile and drop 60%.
Yes. Whereas if that portfolio was in Nvda and Apple or just the S&P, they might actually give you a loan.
This is true, but that's a function of market cap. Although now Bitcoin it's creeping up on Google, I think now, right? In terms of the list of highest market cap assets, it's starting to get up there. And I think
here's the thing. What if Robinhood and Coinbase, like they give you a margin loan against your stocks and you can take that money out of Robinhood. You can go do whatever you want with it. Yeah. What if they start doing that against Bitcoin, and they're the first ones. Like if you have $1 million of Bitcoin, they'll give you
300,000,
300 grand.
Yeah.
But then they would take the risk if Bitcoin falls. I guess they would have an automatic stop loss or something or whatever. But
well, they'll just liquidate your Bitcoin. They're going to margin call you. If they give you 300,000 and your Bitcoin drops, you have $1 million and it drops to 500K, you better believe they're going to take some of that money out.
Maybe they could be the ones to do it then, right? They could. I don't think Robinhood factors in how much Bitcoin you have to give you margin, or Coinbase.
That I don't know, but I am impressed with how much margin they give you on your stocks.
On your stocks, yeah. Because that's their bread and butter. They know how to underwrite that process because they've been doing it for 5 years. But for crypto, like if someone walked in with 20 million of Bitcoin on Robinhood's platform, I wonder, would they get a shit ton of margin because of that?
That I don't know. Anybody that's physically holding Bitcoin on Robinhood, do you have margin enabled on that? I don't have any Bitcoin in Robinhood.
Yeah.
So I don't know. And Coinbase certainly doesn't offer it. BlockFi did. Before they went under, they actually did. They offered.
They went under. That's why they're so scared.
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. And you would have been fucked both ways, because you could have theoretically still been on the hook for the loan, and then you lost your Bitcoin too. Like that would not be good. But the point is, these are all things that you could argue can and will be worked out. If we're talking about this, those guys are talking about this, and at some point it will be worked out. Say
Carlos,
next year or two.
Do you think with the conversation we're having now and Saylor's no sell, like hodl mentality, you think it's going to be like a bank for Bitcoin? Like, you think he's just going to do that?
What do you mean, like him being a bank? Like
well, just a bank for Bitcoin.
I don't think
Bitcoin treasury, basically.
Yeah, I don't think I think he sees it as he's accumulating as much of this asset as possible, and he's going to worry about how the people say monetize it on top of that. He is just looking to become one of the largest players in it. I think I think he has a goal of 1 million Bitcoins. It seems like that's in his head, even if he hasn't publicly stated that. It's like a race between him and BlackRock to get that. And then I think he sees all of the other financial instruments on top of that Bitcoin. He's saying 100 years. You hold it for 100 years, right? So if you buy real estate in Manhattan, you're not selling it for 100 years. There's a lot of other ways you can make money on that property without having to sell it.
Right. I mean, there's a lot of shit that can be done over the next couple of years, bro. And here's the thing: now that Gensler's gone, the regulations are just wild in terms of it being open for Coinbase and Robinhood to start experimenting, doing new stuff.
I think Coinbase deserves to succeed. Like Hood, with all the crap that's happened in the past 4 years, Gensler like pretty much talking crap about Bitcoin and ETH. I mean, a lot of those companies took a lot of shit, especially Coinbase. So I'm very, again, politics aside, I'm just happy that, people like Vivek and Elon are like, at least they're in the influence of the new administration, because, they're entrepreneurs, right? And they want to solve problems. Nothing motivates them by not finding a problem, or not finding a solution to a problem. So
this is a good point as well. They're also talking about getting rid of the capital gains tax on Bitcoin. If they do
that would be so bullish,
bro. If they do that, that I think settles it. That people are out of real estate and going right into Bitcoin.
Well, would you still sell then, Carlos? Because you're the one saying, "Oh, I'll sell a little bit of it."
I would sell less. This is the thing. I would sell less. Okay. But that's bullish for it, because if I sell less, then I'm leaving more of it in the market cap. I think, like I said, I think I need to leave more in than I originally thought. I was like, oh, I'm going to get completely out of Bitcoin by December 2025. But then I'm like, I don't know that the next halving is going to mean anything. And with all the positive catalysts, this could be a number go up, to the right, for at least the indefinite future. So I plan on starting to scale out at 100, but at a certain point, I was thinking, oh, I'm going to, take enough that I can pay off all my existing debts, pay off my home, pay off everything. But I'm like, why would I do that if I can just take that money and wheel it and wheel it and wheel it and let it generate? At a certain point, I could pay off my home with a fraction of my gains in a few years. And as inflation happens, listen, as inflation keeps going, it's actually lowering the value of that debt, right? The debt that I owe, it becomes less and less over the years.
Yep.
So I'm really finding hard to come up with a reason to not hold as much of my Bitcoin as possible And instead of reinvesting that in deploying it into real estate, which was the plan, instead of becoming a landlord, just not doing that, doing my 10, 15 hours a week, running options against it and going to live my fucking life. If they get rid of capital gains, that for me, absolutely.
Yeah, that would be crazy. Yeah. I would feel like I'd be, have you seen the movie, what is that? The one with Ben Stiller where he visits the family, where I feel like with my Bitcoin, I'm like that guy where he's holding he's holding his luggage case when someone was trying to get away. Like, you're gonna have to take away from my kung fu grip.
Oh yeah, I'm not going to be getting rid of it. I'm not going to be one of those guys. I didn't get into Bitcoin as early as I did, which was considerably late. I didn't get in that early to be one of the guys that sells it out.
Well, Carlos, you're in the rare camp. Out of all the people I know that hold Bitcoin, there's only a few that I know that are whole Bitcoiners. The majority of the people I know, including myself, I'm not a whole Bitcoiner. So I didn't start as early as you did. And you feel like you didn't start as early as you did.
Yeah.
So, but you're sitting pretty right now.
Believe me, I've run the numbers. I did a ton of investing in 2020, and I basically only bought 3 things in 2020.
Meet the parents. There you go. Thanks, guys.
Meet the parents and meet the fuckers. Yeah. I only bought 3 things in 2020: Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Tesla. That's it. I literally didn't buy anything else.
That was good.
I do run the numbers now and say, maybe I shouldn't have bought Tesla. Like, literally, maybe I shouldn't have bought Tesla and just doubled and tripled down into my Bitcoin position. I'm perfectly happy. I am a
just
whole coiner.
Bitcoin maxi it.
Bitcoin laser eye that shit like Chris Patel now. Go full on.
His transformation is beautiful.
How amazing has that been?
Yeah, didn't he put out a tweet where he like bought Mara call options or something like that?
Yep.
Dude, that was a huge position.
I wanted to talk to him about that because it's over 1 million. Let me see if I can find
He
it.
must have seen something, and I want to know what he saw.
It's very simple. He thinks they're going to become a smaller MicroStrategy, which
they are trying to be. They are trying to be that.
I think he's right, dude. I mean, the way I'm reading how people in the marathon community are thinking of this pivot, they have the most Bitcoin out of any miner. And the market doesn't give a shit about mining. They care about this Bitcoin treasury stuff, and they're leaning into it, right now. So I think it's a good shot. It could work. Obviously, it depends on Bitcoin.
This was it.
Yeah.
Long Bitcoin, long math.
That is crazy.
900,000 contracts. So total today's gain of whatever. There was another one where it showed like the total gain. So I think it seems like he put in about 700,000 or something into this thing, because
this is just long calls, right? This is just plain.
Oh, he has a spread. He put in about like one. I think he put on $250,000, so 250.
Right. Okay. So he put in 250, and it's up almost a minute. It's a. But this is my point. Something like this was not even really thought of about a year ago. So now when you start thinking about traditional markets, you think about investing in companies. If this company doesn't have some sort of a Bitcoin strategy, if a company like Apple doesn't have a Bitcoin strategy and it's just a traditional growth, EPS, margins, revenue, is that not going to be seen as a negative? Or at least, will they not start to get questions about their Bitcoin strategy? Like, do these Mag 7 companies, the companies with a lot of money and all this cash that's basically melting away, are they not going to get penalized if they don't have a Bitcoin strategy in 2025? And that, if the answer is yes, then that to me fundamentally changes the way that we are going to be operating in the stock market, right? Things like PE means something different if having a Bitcoin strategy is considered part of it, right? Because when you think about PE, you're thinking about how is the company performing and what is the trajectory of that. But if they've also got this asset that is growing in the background over time, and instead of them doing buybacks or offering a dividend, what if companies say, we're going to take that money, we're going to buy Bitcoin instead?
Yeah. I think it's very possible that can do well. It's just, you need a lot of companies to actually get on board and, do that.
It seems like they are.
Yeah. I mean, guys, I feel like the companies that matter to us, at least with the YouTube community, I would say a lot of them hold Bitcoin, right? Like Elon, Jack Dorsey. I'm sure Nvda. I'm sure he has some Bitcoin. I would be surprised if they're not.
Him personally. His GPUs were mining it.
Yeah, exactly. Like it would be impossible for me. He's like, oh, look at this. Look at the need for my GPUs, but I'm not buying Bitcoin.
The other thing to consider is at the beginning of the year, the regulations change where the Bitcoin that companies have on their balance sheet, they're going to be able to value it at the spot price as opposed to the lowest price of the quarter. That's going to be a big deal too, especially if Bitcoin continues to rise. It's kind of like how Tesla enjoys these regulatory credits. It's just sort of free money. Basically, Bitcoin just becomes a lot of this free money that people have access to. It's another stream of capital that they can draw from if they really wanted to, versus issuing debt or diluting shareholders. They could just dip into that Bitcoin reserve if they got some money as a way of raising capital in the company. I'm saying that this is just like could be potentially game changing for the stock market, even if you're not in crypto at all. And this will happen next year. Anyway, a lot more questions than answers. It's an exciting time to be holding everything right now. And this is why I said this could be the absolute greatest investment market ever, because Bitcoin could be the tide that raises all boats. And when you think about the stock market raising the fucking stock market, I don't know. We just could be seeing some insane gains coming up this year. I think 25 is going to be fucking sick.
I wish that TJ was on today, because I'm sure we would have busted his balls with buying Bitcoin high. And didn't he
bought it at 50 and sold it at 70.
Yeah. No, but he sold it. He's like, yeah, I'm good for the. I don't know how much he made, like 20,000 or something like that.
Well, it's because he can't wheel it. If he
can't wheel it, he
doesn't give a fuck. If he could wheel a two bed, 2 bath, you come in your house, there's like another person sitting there, like, yeah, I'm only here for 3 weeks. I expired.
Oh, could you imagine? If he could find a way to wheel a house,
wheel it, dude.
That's hilarious, bro.
Anyway, I got to spend some time with the family. Guys, hit like and subscribe. If you're not following Amit, please do follow Heinz Ketchup. We will see you guys next week. Thanks for watching.
See you guys. Bye-bye.
All right. And